This is Unit 12, video number 6. Compositions. A composition of transformations is a combination of two or more transformations, each performed on the previous image. Let's look at the examples together. Example number 1, Part A. Graph triangle ABC using the given points. 2, 3 is A, 2, 6 is B, and 5, 8 is C. Once you have those plotted, you're going to use a straight edge to connect. Part B says reflect the triangle ABC over the y-axis and label it A prime, B prime, C prime. In this case, the y-axis is our line of reflection, which I have highlighted. Recall that reflections are the same distance from the line of reflection. So as we go over that y-axis, point A is 2 points to the right. So when we go over to the left, we'll be 2 units away from that line of reflection on the left. So that'll be A prime. B is also 2 units away. And C prime is 5 units away. Once you have those plotted, you're going to connect them using a straight edge. Part C says to list the new coordinates. A prime is the coordinate -2, 3. B prime has the coordinate -2, 6. And C prime has the coordinate -5, 8. Part D says to rotate triangle A prime, B prime, C prime 90 degrees counterclockwise and label it A double prime, B double prime, C double prime. So we were told to rotate 90 degrees counterclockwise. Recall that rotations occur in 90-degree increments, so this is one increment, and the direction counterclockwise tells us to turn to the left. So we're going to physically turn our paper one turn to the left. Remember that I cannot physically turn my screen, but instead I will turn my graph paper. When you have turned your paper one turn to the left, the word compositions will be on the left-hand side, and your graph should look like this. Part E says to list the new coordinates for A double prime, B double prime, C double prime, below. So looking at this graph, our focus is going to be on the blue triangle or the previous image. Using those coordinates, assuming 0, 0 is our origin, and this is our x-axis, and this is our y-axis, A double prime would have the coordinate -3, -2. B double prime would have the coordinate -6, -2. And C double prime would have the coordinate -8, -5. Once you have those coordinates written down, we're going to rotate our paper back to its original orientation and graph those coordinates. Now that we have our paper rotated back to its orientation, we're going to graph the coordinates -3, -2. That's A double prime. -6, -2. That's B double prime. And -8, -5, which is C double prime. And we're going to connect the vertices with a straight edge. So on our graph, we have our original pre-image, A, B, C. Its reflected image, A prime, B prime, C prime, and then the rotated image of A prime, B prime, C prime as A double prime, B double prime, C double prime. And lastly, part F says, are the triangles created congruent or similar, and why? So we know that the triangles are congruent. Remember that congruent means they're the exact same. And we know that they're congruent because a dilation did not occur. So recall that all of the transformations, a translation, a reflection, and a rotation produce congruent images, whereas as soon as you have a dilation, it makes an image bigger or smaller. That image is no longer congruent, but is similar. Example number 2, part A, graph triangle DEF using the given points. D is 0, 2. E is -3, -2. And F is 1, -3. Connect those points with a straight edge. Part B says to dilate triangle DEF by a scale factor of 3 and label that new image D prime, E prime, F prime. So we were told that our scale factor is 3. In other words, we are going to multiply the x and y values of every coordinate by 3. And before I graph this, I'm actually going to write down the new coordinates. So I'm going to do step C. The new coordinate for D would be 0 times 3, which is 0, and 2 times 3, which is 6. E would be -3 times 3, which is -9, and -2 times 3, which is -6. And F prime would be 1 times 3, which is 3, and -3 times 3, which is -9. Now I'm going to graph the coordinates that I have. So 0, 6 is D prime. -9, -6 is E prime. And 3, -9 is F prime. Once you have those plotted, you're going to connect your vertices with a straight edge. Part D says translate triangle D prime, E prime, F prime, that's our blue triangle, using the symbolic form x plus 5, y plus 3, and label it D double prime, E double prime, F double prime. Recall that translations are given in this symbolic form. When the x value is shifted plus 5, that means shift it to the right 5. And when the y value is shifted plus 3, that means up 3. So we are now going to take each of those coordinates, D prime, E prime, and F prime, and we're going to shift them to the right 5 and up 3. Starting with D prime, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the right, and 1, 2, 3 up. This is D double prime. E, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the right, and 3 up. This is E double prime. And F, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the right, and 1, 2, 3 up. This is F double prime. Once you have those plotted, connect your vertices with a straight edge. Part E is to list the new coordinates for D double prime, E double prime, F double prime below. D double prime is in the position 5, 9. E double prime is -4, -3. And F double prime is 8, negative 6. And part F says is D double prime, E double prime, F double prime congruent or similar to D, E, F, and Y. So we know that D double prime, E double prime, and F double prime is similar to D, E, F because a dilation occurred.